it captures almost everything. The purpose is yoga for harmony and peace. Harmony uh, within the family and peace within the heart. And if that thing happens, that accelerates the peace in the society, peace in the nation, and peace in the world. So if you look at this global symbol, the person who is practicing yoga is joining hands, and joining hands is a sign of unity, union. When we join hands, that is a kind of meditation. We can never get angry when we join hands, and we can practice that whenever we are in a sad mood or when we are getting upset. Just join the hands, and there'll be a balance in the body, and suddenly we'll feel a lot of energy in the body, which will calm us. Now, the color orange is a fire element, and then there's a globe. Globe represents the whole of humanity, and it also represents the oneness in the humanity. The green leaves is the nature. So all the trees we watch in our backyard and we don't pay much attention, that is part of nature from which the current humanity is almost totally disconnected and is causing chaos within the self and within and the family and the society. Then the brown sign represents the earth, and earth is the mother of creation. And then there's a blue is the water, and water is called the father of the creation. So all this symbol is so powerful, and it contains the purpose of yoga is unity, union, combining everything into one, which we have heard that the journey of yoga is the journey of the self, discovering our own self. So during the next 30 minutes or so, we'll go through various aspects of yoga and the meaning of yoga, the meaning of what is inner freedom, what is the purpose of yogic practices, what is Swami Vivekananda's message and the vision about inner perfection, and how do we see that yoga leads to unity and inner freedom. And we'll also look at the process of life and how life is changing. Every breath we take, we get a new life. And eventually, it's the mind which is blocking us from taking this journey from the doing to the being. And then there'll be some closing remarks. So basically, yoga is a Sanskrit word. Its meaning is huge or union. Union is between the mind, body, spirit, and this union means bringing harmony within the self at all the time. The ultimate purpose is joining our self consciousness with the super consciousness, is the divine consciousness. Bringing those two together, that's the ultimate purpose of yoga. Ma'am, can you please read from this?
The word yoga is derived from the Sanskrit root yuj, meaning to join or to yoke or to unite. As per yogic scriptures, the practice of yoga leads to the union of individual consciousness with that of the universal consciousness, indicating a perfect harmony between the mind and body, man and nature.
Please read this also.
Yoga is not about self-development. It is about self-dissolution. It is the method or the process which allows an individual piece of life to yoke itself to the cosmic. This is by Sadhguru.
So yoga is not for self-development. Yoga is for self-dissolution. Self-dissolution means we have cultivated a mind which is full of lot of undesirable thoughts, worries, and all kinds of things, which is becoming a roadblock in taking this journey of yoga, rising from the physical to the non-physical. So we have to undo all the things which we have learned and try fresh and fill up our mind with the pure thoughts. Without those thoughts, we cannot make progress on this path of yogic journey. So the other meaning for yoga is the yoke, and yoke is strength. When we bring people together, then the strength is multiplied, and yoke is also this wooden piece which joins these two oxen, when they are joined together, their strength is multiplied. And if you yoke the whole of humanity together, there is nothing we cannot achieve for this society. We can create a totally perfect universe by joining our strengths together. Ma'am, can you please read this?
Outer freedom is dominating in the world. The inner freedom leads to human perfection. May we not think of freedom as the right to do as we please, but as the opportunity to do what is right, by Peter Marshall.
So, nature has given us the sense of judgment and the power to choose. So, we have been given the freedom. Somebody has, somebody, please mute your, somebody's speaker phone has to be muted. There's a noise in some. So we have the freedom to do whatever we want to do, but are we doing the right things? Are we choosing our freedom in the right way? And we have outer freedom, which is dominating the world. We can travel anywhere, we can enjoy any kind of food, we can get educated, but that freedom is not helping the world. The inner freedom leads to human perfection. The inner freedom is when we take care of the negative forces within the mind. When those are all dissolved, then the inner freedom starts. So the opposite of freedom is slavery. Our humanity has gone through a slavery period. 400, 500 years of slavery existing on the planet. And this is in United States, we still are. There's a lot of issues between black and whites, and the slavery still persists in different forms. In 1855, the slaves were sold like we sell goods in the market, and this is one of the ads from which you can see that the slaves were sold as $3, and so this ad shows that the human value were so low at some time that some strong people, they were enslaving people and employed them against their wish. So the opposite of freedom is slavery, and this slavery in some form still exists. And I had to a few years back visit South Carolina, and I was given a tour of the town. In the middle of the town, there was a shed, and there were poles in the ground, iron poles, and there were hooks. And slaves were, when I was told that when the slaves were sold, they were tied to those poles and they were auctioned. And people will come and buy those slaves and chain them and make them do whatever they wanted them to do. So this slavery is the outside slavery, forcing other people against their will to do whatever the owners of the slave want to do. Even the first 4, 5, 6 presidents of the United States, they used to own slaves. So the inner slavery to the inner freedom is a journey. So 1860, Abraham Lincoln became the president of the United States, and then the southern states, they were seceding from the Union, and they were promoting the slavery, and Abraham Lincoln didn't like it, and there was a civil war for 5 years. Eventually, the Union won the civil war, and the slavery was legally ended. But although the slavery legally ended, but the people's mind did not change. As long as we have the control of other human beings within ourselves and try to employ other people as slaves, the slavery does not disappear. So in modern day slavery, there are still many millions of people enslaved currently in bondage in various countries. Is in China, in India, and many other places. These people are locked up and they are misused sexually and otherwise. And this is a disgrace on human society that we are still not paying attention to some of these people and liberate them from slavery. The most of the humanity is living with bondage of the inner slavery. Although India got its freedom in 1947, but the inner slavery has always been there and is continuing to grow. The freedom from the thoughts is the inner freedom, which is the purpose of yoga. When we look into our own self and our thoughts and look at the thoughts of anger and greed and all that, those are the bondages which are holding us back, and this is called the inner slavery of the mind. Unless we deal with this issue, the progress cannot be made towards a journey of oneness of life. Ma'am, can you please read this?
Human beings are not property. On the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery, let us reaffirm the inherent dignity of all men, women, and children, and let us redouble our efforts so that the words of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, "No one shall be held in slavery or servitude," ring true. Kofi
Yeah,
Annan.
this is a quote from Kofi Annan. He was the United Nations chief from 1997 to 2006. So we are celebrating the International Day of Yoga, and United Nations has a great role in spreading peace in the world. And so far, they have not been successful. So we have to look at reasons why we are not successful in promoting peace in the world, which is again one of the purposes of this conference. Now, Swami Vivekananda, over 100 years ago, he did a lot of work to educate the humanity about the yogic practices and about the purpose of life. Now, we have to grow from inside out. None can teach us, none can make us spiritual. Nobody is our teacher. We are the teacher. The teacher is within us, and that supreme teacher is our spirit, is our soul. And we go to attend all these gurus and rishis and take courses, and we can benefit from them, but not get attached to one of those things, because the only teacher is the teacher within. So when we start listening to the teacher within, then only our practice of yoga starts. So Swami Vivekananda also said, since our conference is on human perfection, yoga is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. When nature created us, it made us perfect. But since we are not connected with nature, we do not know our own perfection. So to know our perfection, we have to follow the reflective practices. Those practices involved Shravan, Manan, and Chintan. Basically, it's the listening, contemplating, and meditating. We have lost the power of listening. We normally try to argue rather than listen. Once we start to listen each other, then it can start a process of transformation within. We are not able to connect with each other and with nature, and we are doing a lot of analysis but no synthesis. We don't know what is the purpose of education if we don't know why we are learning and what we are learning. So in order to create a new environment for yogic practices and to fix our broken social system, we have to prepare a team of people, those who are trained in reflective learning practices. And those practices are very simple. Just a simple breathing practice can change the whole world. Now, if you look at these pictures, these babies are still in mother's tummy and they are doing yoga inside the tummy. So before we are sent in this world, all the yoga is taught to us. But when we come out, then we meet a very hostile environment. The parents are very welcoming, but the whole society, they are trying to transform us from our true nature of a pure bundle of life energy into something which they want us to make. They want to make us engineers, doctors, or whatever the parents' wishes. They try to impose their wish on their own children, which is an unfortunate thing. And we do not grow our original, authentic nature, which is the pure peace. And all the yoga which we have learned, we are unlearned in the very first few years, and we are bombarded with a lot of ideas since we don't have a critical thinking mind at that stage. So we absorb everything, and that is the blueprint of our life gets created in the first 8 or 10 years of life. And then the other progress slowly takes place, our education takes place, then the media and the society and the video games and everything, all those things impact the cultivation of our mind and subconscious mind, and that thing plays out in the world as we grow up. And if we are, if we don't become aware of how we have been educated and how we have been mistreated and fed with a lot of information which is unnecessary, when we watch our parents also fighting and growing and family, all these things influence the mind of a young child, which is very impressionable. So it's a big warning sign for the young parents that please do not disturb the authenticity of these young forces of nature, which are pure bundles of energy. If we do that, we do not create a good humanity, we don't create good leaders, we don't create good yoga leaders. So that transformational leadership is missing in the world because in the young age, our mind polluted and we are not able to get out of this. And we have many leaders which are not transformational and they are transactional leaders. They are just there to do a job. Life, the purpose of life is not to a job, but to again rise from within. And this authenticity which nature has given us, the perfection with which we come and bring out that perfection in the world, that is the purpose of yoga. Ma'am, can you please read from this?